So my name is Nicole Sullivan. I am the co-founder and director of financial planning at Prism Planning Partners. I am also joined by my wonderful colleague and the managing member of our firm, Ron Bernstein.
Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate everyone being here today and taking time out of your schedules to learn a little bit about cybersecurity. We have our friend here and also our vendor, Lori, to help us out. We've got a lot of valuable information to share with you in a short period of time, so I'm just going to kick it to you guys to get started. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. So Lori is, as Ron mentioned, Prism Planning Partners IT vendor. She has been working with us for several years in keeping our small business safe. She also specializes in working with individuals. And again, I want to just kick it over to Lori and get today's video started.
All right, well, great. Well, welcome everybody to the webinar. My name is Lori Tishnai, and I'm the owner of Computer Concepts. And I'm here today to share with you some tips and tricks, potentially, to help you stay safe against cyber attacks in 2021. 2020 was, I think, a year we all want to put behind us, and we want to make sure that moving forward, we can keep everything that we have safe and secure. And Nicole and I have come up with a few cybersecurity fact and fiction pieces of information.
So Lori, fact or fiction, if someone has antivirus software, are they fully and adequately protected from a bad actor who might harm their computer or steal some information?
So what I'd like to do for security and protection for our computers is a layer. Think of it as like an onion. You know, there's a lot of little layers, and those layers help keep you protected in case something falls through or doesn't quite adequately work for you. So antivirus and anti-malware is a minimum layer of protection. It's the first layer that you want to have on all of your computers. The second layer of protection that you also want to have is something called threat hunting. So probably none of you have really heard of threat hunting. I know I brought it up to our team a couple years ago that there's a new layer of protection that you want to have on your computers, and it's called threat hunting. They're looking for things that are not caught by all viruses and malware. And you also want to remember that your antivirus and your anti-malware are protecting your computer and your browsing habits from when you click on things. You know, potentially it could be fixing something coming into your computer, but depending on the type of antivirus or anti-malware that it is. But having these additional layers is really key and important because the threat actors are getting smarter, and antivirus and anti-malware can't actually protect your email. So that's a different layer.
Yeah, and I think in a minute, maybe we are going to talk about some scams, and Lori's going to show an example of a sophisticated looking email scam. These bad actors are getting, unfortunately, good at this. All right, so maybe the next fact or fiction question here. Let's say I only use Apple products and I have a Mac, so I don't need antivirus software. Fact or fiction?
Fiction. I'm not sure what the geniuses are still saying today at the Apple Store, but no matter what your device is, you need to have a layer of protection on it, whether it's a Mac or a PC or even an IoT. Like these are all of our different devices that we have in our home. We need to have a layer of protection there, but Macs definitely need anti-malware and antivirus. So that is fiction.
That is fiction.
Yeah.
All right, let's ask another question that I hear from folks out there. Fact or fiction? The cloud is unsafe, and it's a better idea for me to save everything to my desktop or a thumb drive.
Those are what I hear all the time too, and that I believe is fiction. The cloud, depending on how you have your cloud configured, when your data is on your computer, you always want to make sure that you have a backup, and you want to think of a backup in terms of multiple layers of a backup. Again, we always want not just one, but we want multiple. So we like to have a local backup connected to your computer as one way. And then we also like to have a cloud backup. The reason why we want a cloud backup is to also ensure that you have either personal continuity or business continuity. Because if your computer were to get hit with ransomware or some type of virus, or your hard drive were to fail, how quickly do you want to be able to get your data back up and running? So that's really the question. And so one is, if you have a local backup, you can restore from a local backup. Sometimes though, guess what happens to those local backups?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
get unplugged, or they get
Yeah.
full, or no one is checking them and they aren't happening. So that's bad. So having something sync to a cloud, maybe an Office 365 or an iCloud account, those are a great sync tool, not a backup. Again, no matter what they tell you, it's not a backup. It's a sync tool when you're going to iCloud. And you always want to make sure that those are configured properly so that if something does happen, again, you can quickly get to your data, even on another device until you get a new one.
Exactly.
And then the third is, if you do get hit with ransomware, and I'm not sure how many of you are aware of ransomware, but ransomware has really taken a foothold personally and for businesses. You may have
Yeah.
seen on the news,
Mhm.
right? Atlanta was taken down by ransomware. San Francisco was taken down by ransomware. Many cities in Florida were taken down with ransomware in the last 2 years. So you really want to make sure that you have your information backed up. And if you have ransomware and you have things syncing to like iCloud, or syncing to Dropbox, or syncing to Office 365, or to that external drive you have plugged in, ransomware will go and encrypt every single one of your files in all of those places. And then your data's
Wow.
gone.
Yeah.
Would you be sad, Nicole, if you lost all of your photos?
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
That would suck.
Ron, would you be sad if you couldn't get
Absolutely.
to any of your information?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why having a backup and syncing to the cloud is valuable, but you want to make sure, again, you have some of this layered protection and using something called two-factor authentication, whether you're
Yes.
getting a text message or whether you're using an authenticator to get a code every couple of minutes. Those are ways that you can keep your data that is syncing to the cloud more secure.
And in just a couple of minutes, I'd love to talk about passwords. I know that can be a big challenge for people, and that's going to be kind of in the next little section of our program. But I do want to finish up kind of on the cybersecurity topic with one final fact or fiction, which is, you know, great to have all this knowledge about cybersecurity, but I'm just an average person. I'm not a target. I don't have a lot of money. These bad actors aren't, they're going to want to go after a big company. They're not going to want to go after me. So fact or fiction, Lori?
Fiction. These threat actors, they want to go after everybody. You know, they can go to the dark web. I don't know if many of you have heard about the dark web, but the dark web actually takes, it's a portion of the internet. Our normal internet is only 4%. Normal meaning where you and I go to search for things like Google and go to our banks and go to different websites. That's only 4% of the internet.
Wow.
The dark web is actually 96% of all internet traffic.
Oh my gosh.
But that includes two pieces to the dark web. But that dark web area where the threat actors are storing your information and buying your information, it's like Google and Yelp down there. Seriously.
Wow.
They are getting reviews on how good is their data. So these threat actors will go and they will find a hack. So someone's information has been breached and now it's for sale. Think about it. Target, Marriott, Evite. How many of you have responded and created an account at Evite? Edmundo, which is for schools. They had over 70 million passwords breached.
Wow.
SBC Global, 2 years the Russians were living on their networks before they even knew it.
Oh my gosh.
So lots of information is out there. They don't care who they're getting because I've seen them transfer $1,000 out of someone's bank account. I've seen them transfer $6,000 out of someone's bank account because they got onto their machine. They're taking your credit card information, gift card information. They don't care. And they don't care how long it takes for them to get that data because they're going to try a little bit at a time. And as long as they get something in return, it's something, right? They don't care.
So Lori, we just don't need to be naive about this. It's happening.
No, it's happening.
Yeah.
And 96% of all breaches that occur come from email.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm a little bit alarmed and frightened What can we do to help keep ourselves safe? So let's start off maybe with having a safe password. I know that's very important. Another fact or fiction question is, I use the same password for everything. Good idea, bad idea?
Bad idea.
All right.
Bad
what
idea.
makes a good password, and why is that important?
Well, let's first talk about, is it okay that I have the same password for every single one of my accounts? The answer is no. Well, can I have the same password for the accounts that really don't contain any information? No. You want to use a password manager, and depending on your situation, there's different password managers that are good to use. If you want to share passwords among your family, emailing them is not the way to do it. Sometimes saving them in a browser is not a good way to do it either, depending on the type of security you have set up on your computer and or your browser. So sometimes it's a good idea, sometimes it's not a good idea. I take those on a case-by-case basis, depending on what I see on their system. But really, saving them into a Word document, saving them into your contacts, saving them into a note is not a good idea. You want to save them in an encrypted place where you can easily gain access to them. Passwords today should be 12 to 16 characters in length.
Wow.
They should contain uppercase, lowercase, a special character, a pound sign, an exclamation mark, and some numbers.
Should they be a word like my pet's name or my, favorite color? What do you think?
That's a great question. I would say not a pet's name, not something that you've used in a password in the last 3 years. Most people haven't changed their passwords since usually 2016.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
2015. So I am not suggesting that you change your password every 30 days or 90 days. That's actually not considered a good standard, because then you'll become less likely to remember your password, and then you'll start using poor password hygiene is what we call it. So in order to use better password hygiene, you want to use a password manager. We've got a couple different ones that we use depending on your situation. And we also believe in using multi-factor authentication. And again, using longer passwords and different passwords for each site.
And Lori, just curious, how many passwords do you see a typical person having based on all the sites and different things they access? It's got to be dozens, right? I mean, some cases.
Dozens? No. Try on average, most Americans have on average 87 different passwords.
Wow.
Oh my God.
So there's no way you're going to remember all the passwords from the different sites. There's no way. There's no way that we really can. And that's why we really need to use a password manager that stores them securely. If you were using a company called LastPass and maybe you were using it for free, they are a password management company. However, they're now taking away that free entity this year in like 2 months. So if you were using that for free, you're not going to have to pay for that. And if you're not quite sure if you like it, that's something that I can help you decide if you want to use a different password manager.
Definitely. And is it worth it to pay a few dollars for password manager?
It's worth it to pay a few dollars, because think about it. These passwords are the keys to all of your information.
Yeah.
And one thing that I never save in any of my browsers is my banking nor my financial information.
Okay.
So I don't save any banking or any retirement information in terms of usernames or passwords. And for sure, I highly encourage you to always make sure that your banking, your emails, and financial data is something different. And you're maybe not using your main email account that you use at all the stores that you go to. So you want a different username for those sites to keep it more secure and 2FA.
Excellent advice. Wonderful. So we're getting a little bit close to kind of the end of our presentation part of this. I want to make sure we leave enough time for questions, but let's touch on scams for just a few minutes here. So maybe to kick things off, Lori, I was hoping that you could show the kind of sophisticated scam emails that are going around now and again.
I can. So let me share my screen. Oh, Your phishing emails, how do you spot these fakes? Again, we shared with you earlier today that one of the statistics is that 96 or 98% of all scams that have taken place this year have taken place through emails. And people are getting emails either on their mobile devices or on their computer. And many times they're not actually looking at who it's from. Is this real? Is this really from this particular company or really from this person? We can usually tell a bad fake because the wording isn't right. It's not really your first name. If you hover over a link, it's not taking you to Amazon, it's taking you to some other random site. A lot of the phishing scams that are happening today, they're doing it to try to confirm your email address and your password associated to it, because the threat actors know that the people in the United States and across the world are using the same password or very similar passwords to get into all of the sites that they utilize. So if a threat actor knows where you're from, they're going to maybe try sending you some emails. And think about it today. How many times are you actually getting something delivered from Amazon or something delivered from Whole Foods?
All the time.
All the time. Are you watching Netflix?
Oh, yes.
Amazon Prime. So all these different sites, you get an email. Hey, there's been some unusual activity. Click here to confirm your username and password. You click there to confirm your username and password. And when you're clicking it and you've now entered it in, what you think is your password, you think you're going to Netflix site or you think you're going to Amazon, you're actually just typed it out or potentially launched a keylogger onto your machine where they can now track everything that you're typing out.
Wow.
And now they have your username and your password.
Wow.
Pretty
so it's
scary.
Very important to hover over those links so people can see, who the actual sender is and not just blindly click on email links. Because this Amazon email looks very convincing. It really does.
It can. They have logos.
Yeah.
I recently had a story. So there's a new type of threat out that's been around. It's been happening a little bit more and more over the last couple of years. It's something called man in the middle. You may or may never have heard of this before. So a man in the middle attack happens when maybe you and a company or you and someone that you're working with are sending emails back and forth. Some of these people are they're timed. They know what they're doing. These are professional thieves. This is what they're going to do is they now have logged into your email and they're watching your emails going back and forth between your clients. If you don't have safety measures set up on your email to put up those blocks or to receive notifications that someone has logged into your account, that may be putting you more at risk. So then what happens is they're sending emails back and forth. And now the threat actor because now it's coming time for payment. Someone now needs to pay $10,000 for an addition or a fence in their backyard. And they get an email. And instead of it being from Amazon.com or whatever the company is.com, it's now that company.co. Or it's the name of the company, but a letter is missing. Our eyes don't always necessarily see that. We see who the email is from.
Wow.
And now they're asking us to wire money someplace else.
That's so crazy. A tip that we always give clients is before you ever, we do this obviously at our firm, but before you ever, do a wire transfer, that you call the person who is expecting your money and confirm the wire instructions and actually speak to them on the phone.
Yes. And another tip to go with that is don't call a number that you've received in an email.
Yes.
Always call the number that you've had in your contacts, or go to a first email that you've received. We actually just had that happen to someone that has now become our client. They received an email and the company that they were working with had a breach on their end. And so they actually wired money thinking it's not a big deal. It's during COVID. Everyone's working from home. So of course they're going to ask me to wire it someplace instead of writing a check and sending it to the office. And now their money is gone. And the banks were notified too late because no one realized that they had sent the money and the real company never received it.
Oh my goodness.
Right. And I guess my takeaway is just slow down when you get these
Yes.
emails and really take the time to make sure that these things are
Definitely.
being reviewed. Yeah.
And just a
Yeah.
final comment too is don't be afraid to ask for help. That's why, you know, people like Lori are in business to ask questions and just say, hey, Lori, I do this all the time with her. I get a weird email. I take a screenshot of it and just say, should I click on this? Should I not?
Yeah.
There is certainly no harm in being too cautious.
No.
Okay.
I would rather know than not know, and I would rather tell you, you know, that it's true or not true, or I'll give you the tip maybe if I can't tell from the screenshot.
Definitely.
Quick question. I get a million of the fake emails, and I've always assumed that if I click on it to look at it and I don't click the, you know, the link that's so dangerous, that I'm okay. I mean, is there any problem in clicking on the email itself?
That's a great question. You know, it really would depend on, one, the security that you have on your computer. How are you viewing it? Are you viewing it on a mobile device? Are you viewing it, you know, does it have pictures in the background that are being downloaded? Sometimes it can be some code in there. So I would say if you don't know who it is, or if you're not sure, I always try to open those on my mobile devices.
Okay.
And I, because especially an iPhone has security built in where you can't run or execute programs. So that's kind of like my cheat idea for you. But definitely don't click on links in an email that you don't know.
I get so
Okay.
many, and some of them go into my junk mail, but I do get some in my regular mail. And sometimes they do look real, you know, at the beginning, but yeah.
They do. I mean, sometimes I get some and I'm like, oh, I know this is a scam. Don't click it, Lori. Don't even look at it.
But in other words, don't even look at it. I mean, obviously, I know the rule. You should, you know, call the company or whatever, and I have done that. I mean, I like, for instance, I got something from Amazon a little while ago that someone bought a TV on my account for $4,000 and blah blah blah. So I called Amazon just to make sure that, you know, but it was a scam. I mean, they hadn't done it, but you know, it's very creepy. It's very creepy. Yeah.
It is. I got an email a couple weeks ago from a client, and they said, you know, Lori, I don't remember buying this virus protection from this company. And it was like an invoice for like $400. I'm like, well, either do I, because I know I don't charge that.
Right.
But it was from one of the vendors that we use, and I said, you know, this is a scam. This is not actually who it's from. So that's what a lot of the companies are doing. They're saying, oh, we charged your card, or we mischarged your card. We owe you a refund. Give us a call. It's actually not the company. And now they want you to give them your banking information.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so scary.
And people give them their banking information, and then they call me freaking out, and I say, oh yes, call your bank right now and freeze your account.
Yeah. And I think just to add a quick comment to that too, I don't know if everyone's aware of this, but if you ever receive a call, certainly from the Social Security Administration, that is a scam. Microsoft, any of these other software providers, they are not going to call you, and that is a scam as well.
And the IRS as well.
Yes, the IRS. Yeah, exactly. Also,
oh, sorry, Diane, did I answer your question?
Okay, just one more quick one, if
Sure.
that's okay. So if you are set up for paying bills online, which many of us are, if you store your bank information on there to pay a bill, is that a bad idea? Should you be re-entering it every month, or how do you?
So my concern is people saving their username and password to log into their bank account. If you're paying bills online, that is okay. Like if you're logging into your bank and you're paying bills and that's being automated, that's not the issue. My concern is you saving your username and password that has access to your bank account. I had a woman that received a phone call. She allowed the scammers, they called her, they had her connect to their machine. Well, she had her banking information saved up at the front, who she banks with, and her username and password were saved. So when she was on the phone with them, and now they're connected to her computer, she clicked it, she let them immediately right into her bank, and they started transferring money, sadly.
Oh my gosh.
So that's why I say don't save your bank username and information, but as long as you're doing transactions in your bank, which is a secure site, that's okay.
So if you're on say you're paying your Target bill and you have an account set up with that, set up to pay your bill, whether you do it on a, you know, monthly basis or you have an ongoing, you know, automatic pay type thing. Do you think that's okay?
I do. A lot of as long as you are working with a company that is a larger company, and even smaller companies such as myself, when you're paying us online, you're paying us through a secure web portal. So that information is being saved there, and we save things in what's called a PCI compliance. So we're not actually able to see your entire card. We can only see the last 4 digits. We don't know the 3-digit code, a lot of that information, and that's what those sites are doing.
Okay.
They're keeping that information secure. Now, can it be breached? Yes,
Yeah.
but you know, you're trying to keep it secure.
What do you think about sites like Venmo, Zelle, QuickPay, that kind of thing? Makes me uncomfortable. I'm just asking your opinion though.
Again, those are all banking sites. Anybody that's working in at the financial institutions or banking institutions, they have to adhere to specific security rules and regulations and different compliance pieces. So those bigger companies, if you recognize the names, I would be comfortable with those. And a lot of those are owned by the big boys. I think Venmo is owned by
Well,
PayPal
QuickPay is
or
Chase.
Yeah.
no, Chase, yeah.
Okay.
And
Right.
if you're Zelle, I think was something else, and then Venmo is actually like the residential or the peer-to-peer, person-to-person part of that.
Mhm.
So I think those are safe
know.
and secure.
The question was when you were talking about passwords earlier, how do you feel about the randomly suggested complex passwords that your computer generates and then
Yeah.
you save?
That's
So
a
I
great
know your environment. So
I have a million, I really have to clean mine up because I have so many repeated passwords from over the years, hundreds. So I'm trying to gradually clean it up and I'm wondering if it's best to just do that since I can't possibly remember them all anyway.
Since you're using a platform that does synchronize to all your devices, I would be okay with those. Sometimes I find those password generators, even though they're very secure, they're harder to type. They're harder to re-enter in. Can you imagine entering that 16-digit code for Netflix?
No way.
You know, where I can't even tell what letter, is that an I or an L? I don't know. So sometimes some sites I would say, yes, those are good to use. And then others, if you know
Like
how you're going to
shopping.
be utilizing them, it might be easier to use a more complex password that's easier to type and to read, personally, in my opinion.
You talked about password managers. Where do you get one? What do you look for? My password manager is, you know, this long ready list. I'd be lost without it, but I know that's bad. So how do you get a password manager? What do you look for?
So it depends on, you know, for me, if you're using an Apple computer or a PC, if you're using an Apple computer and you have an iPhone, I really like what Apple has built in, and it's called Keychain, which also has 2-factor authentication, and they have a lot of nice built-in security that allows you to synchronize your information from device to device. If you're using a PC or a Mac, right, or you're using cross-platform, maybe an Android phone or something different, there's a couple different ones. LastPass was one that I mentioned. Passportal is another one. You know, another question would be, well, do you need to share this with other people? Are there people in your household where you're logging on to one site and you keep emailing each other back and forth, you know, honey, what was the email and password to the electric company? And, you know, and you're changing it or you're keeping simple ones. So Keeper is another one. You want to make sure that the password management companies are, you know, Google about them. If they've had a breach, what happened with that breach? Again, all companies are going to can potentially have a breach today. That, you know, the layers and the complexities of some of these hacks are getting greater. So you just want to make sure that whoever you're using has good response and has a good type of security programs within it. So I would choose some that are maybe rated by PC Magazine or something that I would suggest depending on your situation.
I know you guys all may have questions about your individual situations and may want to get in touch with Lori separately. So here is Lori's contact info.
So you can reach out to me at lori360.com, and I have it on the screen. And you can also give our office a call, and the number is listed there as well. If you're listening audio and not watching, it's 847-604-8421. And we're here to help you with all of your technology needs and to make sure that you're staying safe and secure in today's environment.
Fantastic. And then as well too, my company, Ron and my company is Prism Planning Partners. We are a comprehensive financial planning and investment management firm in Libertyville. And if you have any financial related questions, or if you just forgot Lori's info and want us to pass that along to you as well, feel free to visit our website, which is prismplanningpartners.com, or you can give us a call at 847-250-9870.
And I as well just want to thank the two of you, Nicole and Lori, for putting on this great event. It's wonderful and always very timely. So appreciate everything. And we also appreciate everyone who's participated here today.
Thank you all so much for your time today.